Hey, music fans, this is a stream that I've been waiting to do for a while. I just had to finish listening to all these albums, but we are going to be ranking the 19 studio albums of Rush, the greatest trio to ever come out of Canada. And we got Nick here, who is kind of a more new Rush fan, got into them a little bit more recently. He's going to be ranking them as well.
Heck yeah. Uh, well, it's funny that you say I'm. Well, I am technically a new Rush fan compared to you, but I actually was the first person to finish their discography because
True.
their music was just so good. Like their music. I wouldn't say all their albums were perfect, but their music was just so entertaining to listen to that I like. Like I just happened to listen to their whole discography.
I know I stopped at Signals when I listened, and that was kind of a big mistake because they haven't ever released any really bad albums. Like, they've released ones that I like less, but nothing that I would say is really a disgrace to the name of Rush. But
Hmm Like here's a good way of putting it. They never had a Beatles for sale. They never had a Yellow Submarine.
yeah, something that's like, oh man, like this is just garbage. Like, I think every album has at least one song that I like on it. Maybe there's one album that I don't really like very much, but that album is still not horrible. But excited to get to rank these because there's different eras of Rush where they have very different sounds. And when I was doing this, I kind of tried to be fair on all the different eras. I definitely favor a certain era of Rush, but whenever I did it, I kind of found a ranking that I thought was good, that was very balanced, while still showing favor to my preferred era. But it's not like all of the albums from one era are at the bottom, and then all the albums from one are at the top, and then all of them from some are in the middle. It's a little spread out, in
Yeah.
my opinion, at least.
Okay. Yeah, I could imagine what your top five would be. My top five. I feel like my top five, like any of these, could be my favorite. Like they're all 10 out of 10s. They're perfect. Like if I can make a tie for 5 albums, it would be these five. But
Yes.
you'll find out.
So, for me, getting into Rush, whenever I first was getting into them, listened to a particular album, Moving Pictures, and it was like, wow, this is really good. But then, like, I listened to their other stuff, and like that made that album seem even better. 2112, of course. Made me go back and start at the beginning. Keep listening. Oh wait, sorry, I started at the beginning and then got to 2112. I'm getting my facts mixed up, but it's just like you said, you just allowed to like keep listening because it's like, what are they gonna make next?
Yeah. The way I got into Rush was I first heard them because of Tom Sawyer, and I my brother in law was like, "Oh, let's listen to Rush," and I'm like, "I heard this Moving Pictures album was their most popular," and I heard it, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't care for it that much. I thought it's very different. Like like if I'm the music I'm used to is like then going to Rush, especially Moving Pictures, it's very different, and I didn't like it that much. Then Garrett came along. Then I met Garrett, and he was like, "Well, have you ever listened to 2112 before?" And I'm like, "What's 2112?" And first time I heard that, right away, I thought that album was a 10 out of 10. That very rare, one of the few times where I ever thought an album was perfect just based off of the first listen. That changed my perception of Rush because I thought these were at first when I first heard them, I thought like, man, this is like the most overrated band I've ever heard. Now I'm thinking, man, this band is actually really good. So I ended up listening, and then the next day we ended up listening to Farewell to the Kings. I thought that was also really good. And then I ended up listening to Hemispheres on my own, and I'm like, man, these three great albums. And then I went to Moving Pictures. Again, I didn't really care for it that much. I don't know why it wasn't clicking for me, but it just wasn't clicking for me. Probably because of how popular it was and how much affection it was getting over. And then when I went back, I listened to the first 2 albums. I thought like, these are pretty good. And I asked Garrett, I'm like, you ever heard the third album? He's like, no. And I'm like, like must be a pretty bad album. And, like it must have been really bad reviews. I heard the third album, like, man, this is really good. And then I listened to Permanent Waves, and of course, and then Signals. I heard, love that album, and then I just kept going through their entire discography, and my original rank in moving pictures was dead last because I'm like, oh, this is so overrated. But now it is way higher than that. I will say.
I think it's been a while since we've did a discography ranking. I think the
Hmm.
last one we did was The Police a long time ago.
Yes.
Which I see Briar in the comments there. Oh, man, I wish Briar could do this video, but he already did a Rush ranking on his channel. But we will try to get Briar in here for our top 10 songs of Rush. Well, I want to do a two-part, one from first album to Signals, and then the second part, Grace Under Pressure through Clockwork Angels. Top 10 songs of each of those periods, and I'd love to have Briar on those. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the ranking. We're going to go Nick, and then me and alternate off. And you'll have to forgive me because some of these albums I've only heard once, and some of these albums I've heard like 100 times. So maybe that's a little bit unfair to some of these albums, but also, if I looked at my phone to see what the track listing is, that's just because I need a little bit of a refresher as to what's on that album.
Same with
But
me, actually.
yeah. So without further ado, let's go number 19.
My number 19 is going to be their 2007 album, Snakes and Arrows. Yeah, this album, uh, I heard it. First time I heard it when I was at work. It was just background music, and I thought it was good. But then, like, when I actually sat down and listened to it, I'm like, man, this is easily their worst album. It's not bad, but very mediocre. I mean, 1974's Rush album. Me and Bear will talk more about that album, but we could both agree that it's very generic. That album as
I
well.
miss the days when that was my least favorite Rush album.
Yeah, but their self-titled debut album, well, that one's generic. That's their first album. I'll give them a break on that. But 2007, I expect a lot more from them because they made some of the best albums of all time, and now they're just reduced to these generic songs. I couldn't even tell you my favorite song from this album. It's just one mediocre song to the last, honestly.
Mm. My number 19 is going to be Counterparts from 1996. This is the one that I just kind of don't like. It almost seems like Rush goes grunge because they were getting a lot of hate for using the synthesizers up until then. Presto and Roll the Bones, they were trying to make a bit of a change. On this one, they were like, okay, we're going to go to a harder sound, but because of when the album came out in the 90s, they kind of were following the trends of grunge. And, oh yeah, Briar says his least favorite is Presto. But because they were following the trends of grunge, it's like Neil is like purposefully trying to write these dark, gritty, like edgy lyrics, and it really doesn't work for Rush. You get stuff like Double Agent, which is one of my least favorite Rush songs. Stick It Out, which could be mistaken for a Smashing Pumpkins song if it didn't have, or Pearl Jam. I think it's Pearl Jam is what I was thinking. It'd be mistaken for Pearl Jam if it didn't have Geddy Lee's voice on it. Just some of this stuff is just very generic '90s rock, and if I didn't hear Geddy, I wouldn't think it was Rush. I do like the instrumental though. Is either was it? It's either "Where's My Thing" or "Leave That Thing Alone." I can't remember which one's on this one and which one's on "Roll the Bones," but the instrumental is probably my favorite song on this album. But the rest of it is just kind of generic '90s grungy sounding rock, not really Rush in my opinion. But I know some people really like this album. I mean, more power to you if you do. I just think they have lots better albums than Counterparts. That's my number 19.
Okay, I'm gonna have to keep that trend going with Counterparts. It's my number 18 spot. I mean, I want to add more to what you just said, but you basically hit the nail on the head there. It's just generic rock music. I think these bottom five albums are the bottom five is because they're just generic rock songs. I mean, yeah, just generic rock albums, and we all know Rush is not being a generic rock band, and they have a very distinct sound. And to me, these bottom five albums are just them going through the motions. It's like having five presences by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
But yeah, Counterparts number 18.
Zeb says the best Rush must be 2112 Hemisphere's Farewell to Kings. Well, I'm not going to say where those rank, but I will say I love all three of those albums. Those are all fantastic. I own the records. I've got them right here. I'm going to show the records whenever I own them, but I don't have any of my bottom ones because I don't have the CDs. They came out a little bit later, but going off of what Nick said, my number 18 is Snakes and Arrows. We have the same bottom two, just in a different order. I'm going to just echo what Nick said. It's just so generic. Whenever I was listening to it, it was like, I don't remember any of these songs. It seems like Rush in their later years was just kind of getting very generic. I know they have one album I like in their later period, but this particular album was just very bland. They're going back to the harder sound, but they're not doing anything interesting with it. No long epics. The instrumentals are uninteresting, unlike YYZ or La Via Strangiato. Like, the instrumentals here are just kind of there. The only song I like is the first song, Far Cry. That one is really great, but everything else on here is very forgettable, and honestly, I could go without ever hearing this album again. So, number 18 is Snakes and Arrows, 2007.
Before I get to my number 17 spot, I don't agree with ZF saying worst any 1982 2003 because
Yeah, whenever we get to I got the 80s albums up pretty high, actually. I really like all of those, especially Signals is one of their best albums, in my opinion. Spoiler alert.
yeah. My number 17 is an album that Garrett doesn't agree with me on. I don't know where he puts it on his list, but he doesn't agree with it being in his top four, bottom four. I mean, and that's gonna be Vapor Trails.
Number 17.
Yes, number 17, Vapor Trails. I'm not the biggest fan of this album. One Little Victory is good. Ghost Rider is also good. How is decent. Vapor Trails is good. The title track. Freeze, the part 4 of Fear. Probably my second least favorite of the Fear. Well, it's not even a trilogy anymore, but
Quadrilogy. Leave it to Rush to make a Fear trilogy and make it have 4 parts, but all in reverse order.
I know. Well, but besides part 4, which is it went from reverse order to just going back to 4. I don't know. Not a fan of. Not the biggest fan of Freeze. It's good, but yeah, I will say the Rush albums do get a little better from here, and Vapor Trails isn't bad. It's just still it feels like them going through the motions. I don't know. Just not essential Rush for me.
Yeah. My number 17 is Presto from 1989. This is entering the era of the compact disc where the albums are starting to get longer, and because of that, a lot of these later Rush albums kind of suffer from the long length. It's like, I could have just chosen the 8 or 10 best songs on here and had a better record. A lot of stuff on here I really don't like, but then there actually is some songs that I do like on here. Superconductor, the title track Presto, Show Me Don't Tell Me, Chain Lightning. Those 4 songs are really great, but everything else on here is just kind of mediocre in my opinion. I know a lot of people like The Past because it's a song about like an anti-suicide song, and I can appreciate it for that, but I honestly didn't really like the music behind the song. And the rest of the album was just very... It's like Rush didn't know what they wanted to be. They got one foot in the synth era and one foot in the almost grunge era, and this one and Roll the Bones are very like, oh, what are we gonna do? Like, are we gonna have synthesizers? Is Alex gonna play a lot? Like, what's going on here? And that's kind of what I don't like about this album, is it doesn't have a unique sound, or its unique sound is that it doesn't have a unique sound, if that makes any sense. And that is why Presto is my number 17.
Continuing on what you were talking about with Presto, it's my number 16 spot. Very generic, very uninspired. I have to say, very no cohesion at all. Very unbalanced. It's just, I was just saying how like it's gonna get a little better from here, but after thinking about it, yeah, definitely deserves to be in the bottom 4 for sure.
Okay, my number 16 is an album that I actually like a lot of. It's just everything from here on, it's like, where does this rank? Because I like all of these next albums. It's just I like some more than others, and this is going to be Test for Echo. And it's kind of still going across like the grunge sound from counterparts. It's just I think the songwriting is a lot better. It sounds more like Rush than generic grunge bands. I'm gonna pull up the track listing for this one so that I can remember what all's on it because I've only listened to it once. But let's see. Test for Echo. Okay, the title track is really good. Half the World, I like that one. Time in Motion. Dog Years is really stupid, but I think it's funny. Virtuality, kind of predicting where the internet is going. I think that's cool. Neil was really ahead of his time with that song. And Carve Away the Stone is an okay ending, but this one is towards the bottom, but it's still got some stuff that I like on it. It's Test for Echo number 16.
My number 15 is going to be Rush, the debut album, self-titled. Why do I have these albums higher than the bottom four? Two songs, Before and After, and Working Man. Those two songs, really strong songs. Yeah, definitely makes it worth listening. Finding My Way is all right. I mean, besides the last two tracks on the album's very generic sounding. But one, it's a debut album. Two, they didn't have Neil Peart to beat Neil Peart. So I give them I could give them a break on this album. But still, I still think it's number 15 worthy though.
Yeah, just want to say hi to Jason real quick. I saw his comments there. You didn't miss much because we're in the bottom of our ranking. We're going to get to the good ones here in a bit.
Yes.
Okay, my number 15, I might get a lot of hate for saying this one. My number 15 is Clockwork Angels, their last album. Now, I'm
Really?
going to talk about the good first. The Garden is one of their best songs in their late period. I absolutely love that song. It's the perfect last song to end on. I like the orchestration, Alex's guitar, like how Neil is kind of acknowledging it's like the end of Rush and kind of wanting his famous last words. But the rest of the album for me is just kind of there. All of the songs are supposed to tell a cohesive story. This is Rush's only full concept album, and honestly, I can't understand what the concept of this album is. Like I looked it up, it's supposed to be about a guy like going through a mechanical world, like exploring a mechanical world, and like I do not hear any kind of connection between any of the songs. Honestly speaking, to me it just sounds like each of the songs are kind of their own separate thing. I don't really feel cohesion in the album. Again, like the Garden is amazing though, and just based on the fact that this album is a lot better than some of the later Rush albums is why it's up high for me. I like how Geddy is getting to use his synth again, kind of in a more backseat like it was on Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures. Alex's guitar is pretty good. It's a good way to end the career, but not my favorite.
Okay. I respect your opinion on that. My number 14 is going to be an album that, well, when I first heard it, was very disappointing and actually made me question whether I should really, like, when I did listen to the albums after Signals, if I should even continue going through their albums. But that album's Grace Under Pressure. Very, very disappointed with that album. Still am, really. I mean, it's in between two strong album Signals and Power Windows. Early Warning, very mediocre. After Image is all right. Red Sector 8, not a big fan of that song either. The Enemy Within, probably the worst of the four Fear songs. The Body Electric's good. Same with Kid Gloves, that's good. Red Lenses is decent, and Between the Wheels is an all right album closer, but overall, very very disappointing after having an album that's perfect before it and having an album that I feel is perfect afterwards. So yeah, my number 14 is going to be Grace Under Pressure.
We have very different opinions of that album. My number 14 is The Beginning, Rush, the debut, 1974. And this used to be my least favorite, but it's back when I didn't listen to all of them. This is the album that I have dubbed Led Zeppelin Light because it's pretty much just. They sound like Led Zeppelin copycats on this album. They don't have Neil yet, and it's really funny. I found this Rush channel on YouTube called Every Rush Song. If you have not found them, please go subscribe to the channel Every Rush Song because they're really good and they have like not very many subscribers. If you're a Rush fan, please go listen to them. But they were doing a podcast on Rush songs about love because there's not very many of them. And one of the guys says, "Oh, don't you know I need love and I need it fast?" And then another guy laughs and says, "Oh, that must be from the first album because Neil would never write something like that." And pointing that out, like the lyrics on this album are just so bad compared to what Neil comes up with later. Like, I need some love. Take yourself a friend. I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood sounds like a Leonard Skinner song, like a southern rock song. Now there are still some really good stuff on here. I like Working Man. That song is amazing. I like What You're Doing, but it's pretty much Heartbreaker light with the guitar riff. Guitar of Heartbreaker is bow down 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 down, and then What You're Doing is bow bow ba da 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 bow. It's just like Heartbreaker light, but still, just the musicianship on this album is what puts it up so high for me. I really like Alex's guitar playing. He's like young and on fire, just going at it. Geddy Lee's bass playing is great. John Rutsey he's a good drummer, but I like Neil better. But it's really just kind of the lyrics that bring this album down because when you got Neil later on, like you can't really listen to this. Anyway, I mean, I still think the album is okay, but definitely not as good as some of their later stuff, and it's why it's my number 14, the Rush debut.
My number 13 is going to go for Test for Echoes. Yes. Higher than you did. First three songs, very phenomenal. Definitely makes these first three songs make it way better than the bottom four, and makes it slightly better than the debut. The Color of Right is all right. Time in Motion's decent. Totem, I could care less for. Dog Years, same with that. Virtuality,
Dog years.
Virtuality LA Resist is decent. Limbo is good, and Carve Away the Stone is very mediocre way of ending the album. Yeah, that's how I feel. It's not bad, but yeah, their albums are getting better though with the list though. But yeah, Test for Echoes, number 13.
My number 13 is Roll the Bones. So this album is kind of in the same vein as Presto, but I think the songwriting is a lot stronger on this one. Again, I'm going to look up the track listing so that I can remember what's on here. Roll the Bones. I need the full list. Okay, Dreamline is amazing. That song is great. I love the line, "We're only immortal for a brief time." That's great from Neil. Bravado. My favorite song is probably Roll the Bones, even though it's got the stupid rap from Geddy Lee, which I think is really funny, but it kind of brings the song down a little bit. Okay, so Leave That Thing Alone was on Counterparts. It's Where's My Thing. I like that instrumental. Big Wheel. Ghost of a Chance is great. Is it just me, or does Neurotica sound too much like Def Leppard's Hysteria? I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
And You Bet Your Life is an alright way to close the album. Definitely better than what came before it. I might pick this one up on CD, but from here on is where I feel like is like the really good Rush stuff. So it's my number 13. Roll the Bones.
I agree. This is where the Rush albums get really good. My number 12 spot is going to go to their second album, Fly By Night. I might get hate for saying this, but this album is extremely backloaded. Like, most of the times when I have a problem with the album, when it's usually front loaded, but yeah, this album is backloaded. Anthem, very generic song. It's decent, but I find it generic. Best I Can is also a very generic. Like, these first two songs, I'm like, man, is this going to be as weak as the debut album? But then, like, beneath, between, and behind is decent. By Tour and the Snow Dog, I still think is their worst song. Sorry, Garrett. I just, it's their first attempt at doing, like, Neil Peart doing his thing, and I don't blame them though. But yeah, this is still their weakest song, especially comparing to the stuff that they would end up doing on their next album, and especially the album that came after the next album after this.
Yeah.
But Side 2 really brings it up though. Fly By Night, great song. Making Memories, also great song. Riverdale, really great. And in the end, much better than the Doors in the end.
My number 12, and you might hate me for putting this up so high, it's actually Vapor Trails.
Thank goodness it wasn't in the top 10.
No, I like it, but not that much. So, this album was kind of a comeback for Rush. Neil had like lost his wife and his daughter, went on this big long motorcycle ride. He was finally ready to make an album again, and this is what they came out with. However, a lot of people don't like it because they say that the production is terrible. I mean, I just kind of chalk that up to it being an album from the 2000s. I know there was a remix version that came out in 2013. I haven't heard that yet. I've only heard the original one. I listened to it on YouTube because I wanted to hear what it sounded like exactly when it came out, and I thought it was good. Like, the production is a little weak, but I think the songwriting is still really good. One Little Victory is really great way to open the album. I like Ceiling Unlimited, that one's cool. Ghost Rider, kind of a song about Neil going out on his motorcycle ride. How It Is, the title track, Vapor Trail, that one's really great. Secret Touch, Sweet Miracle. I really like Freeze. I know Nick said he didn't like that one very much, but I think it's really moody and atmospheric. So that's gonna be my number 12, Vapor Trails.
My number 11 album, the album that just barely wasn't good enough to be in the top 10, and it is what it is. But my number 11 is gonna go with Roll the Bones. Yeah. Dreamline. I mean, the first three songs are absolutely fantastic, especially the title track. I love that track, even with the rapping in it. Ghost of a Chance is amazing. You Bet Your Life. I don't know if you forgot if you said it, but I do think it's a mediocre way of ending the album. But the songs in this album are not that bad. It's actually really good, especially comparing it to the album that came before it. But I just feel like the top 10 Rush albums are just far superior.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna get to my number 11, barely missing the top 10, and that is their second album, Fly By Night. So after the first album, this next album gets like infinitely better. Even just with the first song, I can tell that the lyrics are getting a lot better with Neil writing them. Anthem, I think it's a great song. Like, it's not one of my favorite Rush songs, but I like it. I agree that Best I Can isn't very strong, but then Beneath, Behind, and Between, I love that song. I actually really like By Tor and the Snow Dog. I think it's really cool, even though it is very embryonic. Rush doing these kind of epic songs. It's an early attempt at doing that. And then the title track is amazing. I love Fly By Night. It's really great. Making Memory is, and then honestly, I don't really like the last two songs as much. I'm sorry, but Rivendell, it's a Lord of the Rings reference, but it's like just Geddy Lee and nylon string guitar, and then like for me in the end, kind of just goes on a little too long. So that's, and the lyrics are, I think the lyrics weren't written by Neil either, and it's just kind of very generic. So that's my number 11, Fly By Night. And coincidentally, my top 10 are the 10 Rush albums that I own.
Nice. Yeah, I don't blame you for just saying that, but yeah. My number 10, yeah, it's going to be Clockwork Angels. I mean, man, is this a really good album? Right away, starting off strong with Caravan. I love that song. BUT2B, that's good. Clockwork Angels and the Anarchist is great. Carney's is great. Halo Effect I enjoy a lot.
Oh yeah, I like that one. I forgot about that one.
Seven Cities of Gold I love a lot. The Wreckers is great. Headlong Fight is good. I don't know how you say T. BU2 is alright. Wish Them Well is alright as well, but The Garden is definitely they're one of their best songs in this era. If I'm looking at their last four albums, it's definitely the best song out of all the songs from their last four albums, from Test That Goes all the way here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's my my number 10 spot.
I need to listen to that one more. I feel like I'd like it more if I listened to it more.
It's an album that will grow on you. I liked it from the first listen, but yeah, definitely give it another listen.
Breyer says, I do like the debut. They're still finding their way, pun intended, but there are some strong rock songs.
Yeah.
Okay. we're at the top 10, and my number 10 is Hold Your Fire from 1987. I know this album is very maligned by some people, but I really like it. It's got some really great songs on it. So, Force 10 is a really great song. Time Stands Still is amazing. Like, the lyrics that Neil was writing are just very amazing. I like the background vocalist as well. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's 80s synth pop, but you know what? This is good 80s synth pop here. Open Secrets, Second Nature, Prime Mover, Lock and Key is great. My favorite song on here is Turn the Page. I really love that song. People say Tai Shan is their worst song, and I honestly cannot put that as their worst song. I still think it's really good, especially if you look at why Getty wrote it. He wrote it for the people of China about some things that were going on over there. And then it ends with High Water. I've only listened to this once, but I really need to listen to it more because when I listened to it, I thought it was good enough to buy, so here it is. Number 10, Hold Your Fire.
Yeah, it definitely is good. Sorry for putting this album so low, Garrett, but my number nine's got to be Permanent Waves. Yeah.
Oh.
I wanted to put this album higher, but to be fair, all 90s, these next 9 albums.
No, my top 10 is really like, these could be in any order. Well, I mean,
exactly.
They are in this order, but I love all 10 of these albums.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like, these, well, especially these 9 albums to me are just cream of the crop Rush, but yeah, my number 9 is going to be Permanent Waves. It comes in between Hemispheres and Moving Pictures, and yeah. I mean, Spirit of the Radio. I mean, come on. Spirit of the Radio. That song's amazing. Free Will. Great song, too. That's great. Jacob's Ladders is great. Entre Nois is great. Different Strings is really good, too. And my favorite song on the album is Natural Science.
Oh, that one's amazing.
Amazing song. No, I have zero problems with this album. I mean, yeah, definitely quality over quantity on this one.
Yes. All right. My number 9 is an album that I feel is very, very underrated. So much so that the band themselves hates the album, and it kind of almost lost them their career, but I love it. Is Caress of Steel, their third album. This album is amazing. I love all the songs on this album. Bastille Day is really great. I love Geddy Lee's screeching vocals on that one. I Think I'm Going Bald is hilarious. Lakeside Park is a cool song. Necromancer, some Lord of the Rings references in there. And I just have one question about that song, though. Why is Bytor the good guy in that song when he was the bad guy in Bytor and the Snow Dog? That's what I don't understand about that song. But maybe he changed his evil ways. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah, that is interesting.
You got like some creepy narration about like 3 guys who wandered off into the forest and like got trapped in the land of the necromancer and had to escape. And then the best song is the B-side, Fountain of Lamneth. That's amazing. Their first sidelong epic. I like all the parts. I like the echo. Like there's this one part where like it just echoes and then it just like it goes really loud and just gets real quiet. Like just if you want to hear some really good early progressive Rush, like pre-2112, listen to Fountain of Lamneth. You're gonna love that. But that's my number 9 is Caress of Steel.
Yeah, very, very great album. My number 9 spot is hey, Garrett's roommate. He's behind you. My number
Beneath, between, and behind.
My number 8 spot is the first. Well, this will be the first album I showcase I own. One of 3. That's gonna be Power Windows.
What one's that one?
Yeah, this is the album that made me want to continue with the Rush catalog. I mean, Grace Under Pressure was the thing that was stopping me from wanting to listen to them more, but this album really brought me back up within right away the Big Money. I mean, if this song doesn't make you want to listen to the rest of the album, I don't know what will. Grand Designs is also really strong. Manhattan Project is killer. Marathon is amazing. Territories, oh my god. Middletown Dreams is amazing. Emotion Detector is great. And Mystic Rhythms. Man, chip kiss. Yeah, my number 8.
Okay. My number 8 is one that you had really low, and I'm very upset, but that's okay. Grace Under Pressure. I love this album. I'm really sorry. It's really great. I know it's like them experimenting with the synth pop, but it's good. Like Alex's guitar is really cool and atmospheric. Geddy Lee's bass playing is good. Their lyrics are still amazing. Neil's lyrics are still like at the top of his game. Like he's not writing about sci-fi or Dungeons and Dragons anymore. He's writing about more like real life things. But I think that really helps with like the Cold War going on. Um, oh great, I forgot that it doesn't have the track listing on the back. Let's see. Yeah, my copy of this album doesn't have the track listing on the back. Okay, Distant Early Warning. I love that song. It's really cool. It's really atmospheric. I love After Image. That one's amazing as well. Red Sector A, another amazing song. The Enemy Within. I like that one as well. It's like four. Then The Body Electric. That one has a really great guitar solo. Kid Gloves is probably my least favorite on this album, but I still like it. Red Lenses, another amazing song, and then Between the Wheels is alright. So I have this album up really high. I don't know, something about this album is it's just a vibe. Like, Nick, I think if you were to re-listen to this album, but like, don't really. I mean, like, I feel weird saying this, but don't pay attention. Just kind of think of it as a vibe and just kind of vibe to it. Just like let the sounds wash over you, and then like go back and look at the lyrics. Maybe you'll like it better then, because that's kind of how I listened to it the first time.
I'll give you this. I feel like I feel the way that you felt with Signals when you first heard it. Like this album is so different from the way Signal. This album sounds so much different than Signals. It really turned me off. That's how I felt when like the way you felt with Moving Pictures going into Signals. That's how I felt with this album after
Yeah, I
listening
don't
to
know
Signals.
why I
Like,
hated Signals the first time I heard it, because it's an amazing album.
yeah,
But
I hated Grace Under Pressure the first time I heard it. I don't hate it now, but yeah, I'll take your advice. I'll listen to this album more. I mean, to be fair, I thought Moving Pictures was one of the most overrated albums of all time, and I mean, I haven't mentioned it yet, so that tells you it's high on my list. So
I need to listen to this one on my sound system, because I probably will like it even more, because I can only imagine how cool it's going to sound there.
yeah. Well, Briar, good news. I also have love for Hold Your Fire. That's my number seven spot. Yeah, I think I think this album's awesome.
Oh, better than Power Windows.
Yeah, I just prefer it a little more. I mean, Force 10, Time Stand Still, Open Secrets, Second Nature, Prime Mover. I mean, those first five songs is just wow. Like, I mean, I didn't look at the reviews when I first heard this album. So when I did hear this album had bad reviews, I'm like, really? This album's awesome. Lock and Key, I really enjoy. Mission, I liked. Turn the Page is great. Tai Shan, I think, is the best song on the album. I know you're not as
I'm
crazy
glad.
about it.
I'm glad that no, I actually like it. I need to listen to the album again, and I definitely don't think it's their worst song. Like right
Yeah,
now, I'm
what
just
was
kind of neutral about it. I need to listen to it more because I think it needs some more love now that I've like heard the backstory behind it.
I mean, it's a hell of a lot better than Double Agent and like basically most of the tracks on Snakes and Arrows.
Yeah, because I at least remember it. Like
Yeah,
I cannot remember anything on Snakes and Arrows. Even like all I remember about for what I don't even remember the name of the first song now.
I don't even remember it.
Whatever the first song is, that's the only one I liked on Snakes and Arrows.
Yeah, High Water is a good way to end off the album too. Yeah, I don't get why this album gets hate. I think it's one of their better albums. I think it's better than Fly By Night, Clockwork Angels, and those happen to be more popular than that one. So yeah, love that album. Very underrated. So yeah, 1987's Hold Your Fire is my number seven spot.
Okay, my number seven is another great album from 1985, Power Windows. And this one does have the track listing on the back. The Big Money is my favorite song on here. Starts off with a bang. I love that one. Um, Grand Design's really great. I love Manhattan Project, especially after watching Oppenheimer. Like, that really gave me an appreciation for that song. Marathon. Oh my goodness, Marathon is so good. I recently got Rush's live album, Show of Hands. It's in the mail, but I can't wait to hear it because it's got some live versions of their Grace Under Pressure, Power Windows, and Hold Your Fire songs. And I'm excited to get to hear what. Oh, and even some stuff from Signals, but I'm excited to get to hear what those sound like live. Territories is amazing. I love the line, "We can't feed the people, but we feed the machines." Like even today with the AI coming out, like still applies today. Middletown Dreams and Motion Detector and Mystic Rhythms is a great way to close the album. So this is going to be my number whatever it was. Number 7, Power Windows.
Yeah, great choice. My number 6 spot. I'm very upset that this isn't in my top 5, but I mean, like I said, any like these albums could change at any moment. But my number 6 is going to be Hemispheres.
Ouch, I like that one. Okay, okay.
Love this album. I mean, the first track alone deserves it to be this high on the list.
The first chord alone allows it to be that high on the list.
Yeah, that song, La Villa, string. I can't. I don't know.
Strangiato.
Strangiato. Love that instrumental. The Trees is amazing. I mean, I love every song on all 4 of these songs, but Circumstances brings it down a little, in my opinion.
I mean, I like Circumstances, but yeah, it is my least favorite on that album.
That's the only reason why it's at number 6.
Okay, my top 6, I would say, are all like perfect albums, and it's very hard to rank them. So I feel terrible putting this album so low, but here it goes. Permanent Waves. I feel horrible putting this at number 6 because all 6 of these albums have the potential to be Rush's number 1 album, but it's you got to put them in some kind of order, and putting this at number 6 is so difficult. But you start out with one of my favorite Rush songs, "The Spirit of Radio," with that riff. It's so cool, and then Neil's drumming, Getty's bass playing, and then that little breakdown section at the end, the reggae section with the Simon and Garfunkel reference. The words of the prophets are written on the studio walls. The concert halls echoes with the sound of salesmen. When I first heard that, I'm like, did they just reference Simon and Garfunkel? And then Alex's guitar solo. This might be my favorite Alex guitar solo. It is so good. It's like this and Analog Kid is becoming one of my favorite Alex guitar solos. We'll get to that when we get to Signals, but this one is so good. I love the lyrics of this, kind of them making a stab at radio only playing popular songs, but also kind of announcing, like, even if you play a synth, that doesn't make you a sellout, because after Hemispheres, Rush really was burnt out with Hemispheres because it was their most complicated album. We're like, we need to get to doing simpler things, otherwise, like, we're gonna get burnt out. And so they're like, okay, let's make an album of mostly shorter songs. We can have like one really big song on here, which was Natural Science. But this song is kind of both mocking radio for only playing the popular songs and being very like monetarily conscious, like we're only in it for the money, but also kind of announcing, hey, like, we're going to be making some shorter songs, but that's okay. Stick along with us for the ride because you're still going to love it. And it's such a great song. And then you get Free Will, which has that epic bass solo in it, and then another great Alex Lifeson guitar solo, a great riff at the beginning. And then, oh my goodness, Jacob's Ladder. That song is crazy. Like, there's not even that many lyrics in it, but the lyrics are so great, just kind of painting the picture of an incoming rainstorm, and all of the instrumentals are amazing. And then when you flip the record over, you got Entre Nous. I love that song as well. Different Strings is my least favorite on the album, but it's still pretty good. And then, oh my goodness, Natural Science. That song is insane. I love the part where it's like Geddy Lee singing and it's got like the reverse echo on his voice. That's so cool. And then like the water sounds at the beginning. And technically this is the title track because there's a section called Permanent Waves in it. But, oh man, Rush was doing some shorter songs on this album, but when they want to do a long song, they've proven that they can still make a pretty long epic, and that is Natural Science on this album. So, again, like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 album, but just so many more good albums that it's hard to rank them.
I think from my number 9 spot to number 1, all the albums are 10 out of 10. So, yeah, Permanent Waves, man, love that album. Yeah. If I could give a 9-way tie, it would definitely I would definitely be able I'd be like, yeah, my number 1 is going to be a 9-way tie between Permanent Waves, Power Windows, Holy Fire, the rest.
Yeah.
My number five, though, I'm ranking this very high for a very controversial album, and that's going to be Caress of Steel.
I like that album. I can see why
Yeah,
it's in your top five.
yeah. I mean, besides you, I don't. A lot of well, back then especially, it was very controversial for them. You even said it was bad enough for the record label to be like, hey, how about not doing that again? And then they end up not listening to them, which was good because. Bastille Day. I mean, I feel like every song, the sound just gets better and better. Like every song gets better. Bastille Day, even though it's my least favorite, it's awesome opener. I think I'm going ball is rocking. It's funny and it's dumb. I mean, there's two songs that are going bald that I've heard from a band.
The Beach
Twice did
Boys.
and Rush did it, but Rush did better though. Lakeside Park is amazing. I love that
I don't
track.
know why that wasn't a big hit. It was released as a single and went almost nowhere.
I mean, to be fair, Tom Sawyer, which is their most recognizable hit, it only went to number 44. So
Criminal.
if that song isn't gonna didn't get to number one or close to it, Lakeside Park had no chance. The Necromancer, awesome song, love that track. If you're a Diabolical Rush fan who has the nerve to say that Double Agent has the right to having that weird vocal thing because the Necromancer also did it, you're wrong.
But it did it a lot better.
Yes, and it fits the song better.
Because it's like the narration of the song. In Double Agent, it just comes out of nowhere and is like, this is just trying to be moody and like edgy and like 90s grunge. Like, oh, I'm caught between the dark and the light in the middle of a dream. What am I going to do? Who do I choose? Who do I listen to? It's like the Necromancer did this so much better because it's just like moody narration.
Yeah. And then there's the best song of the album, which is the Fountain of Lamnet. I'm not gonna. Well, neither me or Garrett's gonna spoil the ending, but the ending's very. It's a good ending to this song because Garrett
It's
knows
not a
why.
satisfying ending, but it's the perfect ending.
Yes, very good. And yeah, that's my number five. Caress of Steel. Some people might hang me for saying that. Might you
I
know?
don't. I would definitely not disagree.
Yeah, you have taste. That's why.
I want to make a meme video where it's like what your favorite Rush album says about you.
Yeah.
And that would be funny. I might work on that later tonight. Okay, number five. And I'm going to have to apologize because I know you like this one a lot, but it is my number five. And that is Signals. When I originally made my list, this was number six, and Permanent Waves is number five. But upon re-listening to this, I like it better than Permanent Waves. This is Rush's best of the synth albums. They were still working with Terry Brown, and it's kind of a good combination of both of their sounds. I love Subdivision. Subdivision's, spoiler alert, Subdivision is probably my second favorite Rush song. I love the keyboard. I love the lyrics. I love Alex's guitar solo. It's amazing. The Analog Kid, what a great riff. The guitar solo is mind-blowingly good on the Analog Kid. It's just amazing. Chemistry is amazing as well. Digital Man, oh my goodness, I love that song. The Weapon is part two of Fear, talking more about Cold War propaganda rather than mob mentalities like they had on Witch Hunt. New World Man is great. I love that synthesizer at the beginning. Losing It, another amazing song. And then Countdown, kind of doing the same thing that the Byrds did on the Learjet song, but a lot better, in my opinion. Kind of simulating a rocket launch. But I think it's really cool. I like Countdown. Great way to end this album. This album is amazing.
Yes. My number four spot. I'm sorry, Garrett. It's gonna be Moving Pictures.
Okay.
Love, 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 love this album. I mean, oh my god, yes. And it's only my number four spot. That's how good this top four is. I
I,
mean,
I love, like, all of my top tens.
yeah. Tom Sawyer. I mean, come on, Tom Sawyer. Red Barchetta, as Getty would say. Red Barchetta. I can't do it. He
Red
does a little
Barchetta.
he does a little accent every time he introduces it. YYZ, you're Canadian. Amazing song. Uh, I didn't even say anything about Red Barchetta. Red Barchetta, amazing song. That part where it's like dun dun dun
Dun, dun, dun,
dun
dun,
dun.
dun,
That's
dun,
probably
dun.
my, even though it's not my favorite song, it's probably my favorite part, my favorite section of the entire album. That song always hypes me up. Limelight, I mean, oh my god, what a crime it is that that awful Behind My Camel made it higher than than YYZ. I mean, I think I honestly, after knowing how great this the YYZ is, and then hearing Behind My Camel, I think it's the worst Police song now.
Cringy.
Yeah, I think it's the worst song by them now
Oh
because of
wow.
the that's it's like if like Strawberry Fields was like outbeaten by like a very mediocre song by like I don't know the Hollies or something.
Captain and Tennille.
Yeah,
Muskrat
something like
Love beat
that.
out Strawberry Fields Forever.
And then like you're like oh now you almost want to hate that other song now and for me I it's a little extreme for me with that but yeah.
Yeah,
So sorry Behind My Camel fans.
it's okay. Like the
Yeah,
song is just okay.
the Camera Eye. I mean, probably my third favorite Rush song of all time. Witch Hunt, I used to despise. I used to think it was one of the worst songs, but now it has grown on me significantly. Every time I, especially listening to it on the record, it's just the sound effects in the beginning, the very I don't know.
Boom, boom,
And
boom.
it has my all time favorite Rush song, which is Vital Signs. Yeah. You might be thinking, well, it's has your two of your top three favorite songs. Why isn't it in your top three? Let alone why isn't it your favorite? You'll find out.
Okay, here is where you are going to be shocked. And I can't believe I'm putting this album this low. I can't, but it is.
Hmm.
Can you believe
Okay.
it?
I mean,
Th-
yeah. Well,
This okay, so this is something we share in common. This has my favorite Rush song, 2112, but it's my number 4. So I want to do a full album review on this album because I can't say everything I want to say about the title track to this song in this little video, or we'd be here for too long. So all I'm gonna say is the title track is epic. Science fiction song about whenever creativity is banned in the future. A guy finds a guitar, shows it to like the leading authorities, and they're like, "That's too dangerous. So we can't have free thought around here." And breaks the guitar, and then like the people like who left the Solar Federation like come back and like take back the world. Like we have assumed control. We have assumed control, and it's just so epic. So many cool guitar solos from Alex. The overture is amazing. It just so many things to love about that song. Kind of progressive concept on the first side, and then the B side is really great too. I think this is why I brought it down to my number 4 spot as opposed to it was in my number 2 spot originally, but when I think about it, the other albums I have in my number 2 and my number 3 spot kind of work better as a whole. Well, this album is still, I would say, pretty much perfect. I think the B side is a bit weaker than some of the stuff on the 2 albums that I put above it. I still love it though. Passage to Bangkok is amazing. I love the guitar riff. Twilight Zone is incredible. Lessons, Tears, oh my goodness, Tears with the Mellotron, and then Something for Nothing is also an amazing song. But in the scheme of other Rush albums, I'm going to have to put this at number 4 because there are 3 albums that I feel are better as a whole rather than, while I love the first half of this album and I still love the second half, I just feel like the other albums are better as a whole.
okay. I'm gonna have to continue with you on that. 2112, number three. Yeah, that album. The album that I thought was originally a 10 out of 10. Yeah, for the well, when I for a big stretch of time when I was well, not big stretch, but for a little bit it was my favorite Rush album. But then like there's a certain album that my number one that was my that ended up being it. I it still is my number one, but Gary knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, 2112, such a great album. I mean that first song is just mind blowing. Uh, yeah, the overture alone just makes it worth being up here. Even though side two is still my least favorite, I agree it is not as good as the first side. I really love it. Passage to Bangkok is amazing. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Nothing really to add about it. Perfect album. I just happen to like the other two better.
All right. My number three, A
Close.
Farewell to Kings. I love this album so much. Whenever I re-listened to this album, it was like, man, I actually like this better than 2112 as a whole because all the songs on here are amazing. Other than I don't like Madrigal as much, but everything else is like top notch. The title track of Farewell to Kings, I love that one. I love the guitar when it goes do 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 da 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 boom 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 boom. It kind of reminds me of "It's Getting Better" by the Beatles with the bump 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 bump. And then I love how the last line of the song is, "Can we find a way to get closer to the heart?" I love how that like ties in later on the album. And then Xanadu, oh my goodness, that song is really cool. It's got this atmospheric intro with like all the bird sounds and the nature sounds, and then like the guitar comes in slowly with Neil's chimes like dong, dong, do 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 do, and it just gets louder and louder, bum 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 bum, and then like Geddy Lee's bass, boom, boom, boo, doo, doo, boo, boo, doo, 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 doo. And then Geddy finally comes in, and then the rocking section, do, 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 do. And then it kind of slows down a bit, and it's just like, how can you write a song that's so good? Like, it's a long song, but every minute is so worth it to listen to this. It's just amazing. Probably one of my top 10 Rush songs here. And that's not even my favorite song on the album. My favorite song is coming up, not quite yet, but then on side two, Closer to the Heart, my third favorite on the album, absolutely amazing. I love the acoustic intro, the 12 string. I just like the melody of it. I like Alex's harmonized guitar solo. And then Cinderella Man is the most underrated song on this album. I love that one. And then I already said I don't like Madrigal as much, but then my favorite song on this album, Cygnus X1, where the man is gonna fly his spaceship, the Rocinante, into the black hole of Cygnus, and like it just starts with the ominous narration. It's like in constellations, the black hole of Cygnus, and then you're like the boom, boom, and then it's like slowly in the background you just hear boo, doo, 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 boo, and like what I'm imagining in my head is like a Star Wars kind of intro where you see space and like what the narrator is saying is words like scrolling like Star Wars, and then when like you see the words fading off into the distance, you hear bow bow ba and you can like see the spaceship like kind of slowly floating in the background. And then when it gets in the bow, bow, ba 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 bow, you can kind of see inside the spaceship and it's flying. And then you get like the invisible to telescopic eye part where he's kind of introducing what he's gonna do. And then whenever he gets to the part where it's like the on my ship, the Rocinante, I imagine like you see inside the spaceship and it's going like at light speed, and you know, like the guy like screaming that out. And then I love the part where he gets caught in the black hole, and it's like the and you get like them screaming out like "Every nerve is torn apart," like that. It's like what the heck? This is so cool. I love that song so much, and it's like one of my top three Rush albums. It is so good. Number three, A Farewell to Kings.
What makes it so great is the guitar playing at the end, like
Oh yeah, those chords, those boom, boom, and then like in Hemispheres, those chords appear again. That kind of shows you, hey, like we're done with the prequel. This is back into regular time.
yeah, what an amazing song. Yeah, that's my number two album, Farewell to Kings. That album, man. Oh my god, mind blowing. When I first heard it, I didn't think it was as good as 2112, but every listen afterwards, I say it is better than 2112.
Agree.
I kind of I do think it is the weakest song though, Madrigal, but I love Madrigal. I think it's a perfect album. I mean, I already said it a million times, but all these nine albums are all 10 out of 10s. But I mean, the first side alone, Farewell to the Kings and Xanadu is worth making it a top 10 album. But then Closer to the Heart, like when I first heard the first three songs, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm thinking this, but I think this might be better than 2112. Can't believe I'm saying I never thought I was gonna say that, but yeah. And then Cinderella Man, I agree, is criminally underrated. And yeah, that Cygnus, that first one, I actually prefer it over the one that's in Hemispheres.
Me too, but I still really like Hemispheres.
Yeah,
Although
which was the more popular one, you'd
I
say?
don't know. I don't know. I kind of consider them as one long song that's divided into two parts. But
Yeah, it's
if
like a
we're
38-minute song.
yeah,
But yeah, what an amazing song.
okay, number two, and I mentioned it earlier, but bow 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 bow. Man, there's only 4 songs on this album, but wow, are they all amazing. This is Rush's most musically complex album, and on some days, maybe I would say it's my favorite. Maybe, I don't know. But everything on here is so good. Hemispheres, wow, what a great way to continue on the Cygnus X1 song. Kind of talking about the Greek gods, and then, like, the guy went through the black hole, like, somehow ended up there, and it's like, hey, no, you don't need to have, like, just like the heart or just the mind. You need to have balance. And like there's some of the musical ideas on here are really cool, like the bow 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 bow. And I already kind of sang it earlier, but that opening chord is really cool. And I like the end. I like whenever he says that the universe is divided into hollow hemispheres. That it's like his voice kind of like starts in the middle and splits up into the two sides of the speakers. And Circumstances is my least favorite, but it's still really good. Geddy Lee sings in French on that one. The trees, oh my goodness, I love the trees. I like the classical guitar intro. I like the guitar sound on that. I like the middle section whenever it goes into the 6/8. Whenever it's like, there's trouble in the forest. Something, 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 and the oaks is scream impression, and the maples scratch their heads, and then like it gets into that instrumental section where Neil's like sounding like woodpeckers, like that's kind of more what it sounds like. And then the humorous last line, the trees are all made equal by hatchet, axe, and saw. That never gets old. And then my favorite song on the album is La Via Strangiato. Man, that is such a good instrumental. Going through all the different sections, kind of musical interpretations of some nightmares that Alex Lifeson was having on the road. I like how it starts with the classical guitar, kind of like you're falling asleep and then you're in a dream world, kind of building, and then that bow 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 bow, and the section that goes like bow bow bow, I love that. I love Alex's guitar solo in the middle where he's just like he like does this crazy scale and then he just goes straight to the bow 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 bow. And then like how it just kind of suddenly ends. It's just like with Geddy Lee's bass, it's like kind of like you're scared by Geddy Lee's bass and you just wake up. Man, I love La Via Strangiato. It's so good. Number 2, Hemispheres.
My number one spot is gonna be Signals from 1982.
That's a
And
good choice.
that's where Ziep said when he said anything after 1981 is bad from
Nah,
1982 to 2003. That's where I'm like, nope,
nah.
you're wrong. You were completely wrong. Uh, Subdivisions, perfect. Probably amazing opener. Oh my god, I think it's the one. I think besides 2112 is their best opening song to a Rush album. In my opinion, that is.
I would
Yeah.
agree.
And yeah, I ranked it number 9 on my top 10 Rush songs of all time. So I mean, the majority of my top 10 is songs from Signal. So I mean, it starts off with that, but then the Analog Kid, I agree with Garrett. That song is amazing. Chemistry, I love that song. Digital Man, I'm in love with that song too. First side, like right away, I'm like, man, love it. Side 2 starts off with my favorite song from the Fear trilogy, which, well, it's not really a trilogy, but I've been calling it that. New World Man, which is their only number one hit. Uh, Love that song as well. Losing It, which is my second favorite Rush song of all time.
That one is amazing.
Yeah,
When I was listening to that album earlier, that one came on. It's like I forgot how good this was.
yeah. Yeah, that song's great. And then Countdown, amazing closer. But yeah, that's my number one spot. Probably will never change because who knows? But that song is just amazing. I mean, that album's amazing.
Okay, I kind of debated putting this at number one because it's kind of the easy choice. But thinking about it, it's like this album is number one. I'm gonna put it as number one for a reason. Not just because everybody and a lot of people say it's number one, but because, like, objectively, this really is their best album. And I'll tell you why in just a second. It is Moving Pictures. Now, it is their best album because we had Rush doing all this complicated stuff in the 70s, and then they made Hemispheres and were like, we need to kind of step back a little bit, or otherwise we're going to go crazy from all this difficult stuff we're doing. And they're going in a little bit of a different direction, but they're not quite yet hitting like the synth pop stuff of like Grace Under Pressure. This is like a perfect combination of the two. And honestly, the stuff on here, while you could play it on the radio, I wouldn't say this stuff really sounds like pop, honestly speaking. It's still very complicated, very difficult to play. All of these songs are just, I would just say, perfect. Starting off with Tom Sawyer, that is a song that I will never get tired of hearing. Every time I hear, it's like, yeah. And then Neil's drumming on this song is so good. Those drum fills, like the, I love that drum fill. That one's amazing. Geddy Lee using the synthesizer kind of more as a backseat, not as a lead on this song, but like kind of just to emphasize some passages. And then I love the, and then he plays that on his bass underneath Alex's solo, and it's like, and then it's just playing that, but like apparently that's really difficult to play on the bass. And then Alex just going crazy. It's like all of Alex's solos on this album are so amazing. Red Barchetta, however Geddy says it. That song is amazing. I love the story on that song. Again, like Cygnus X1, I have a movie that plays in my head when I listen to that song. I love the section that you were talking about, the but my favorite section is the one that goes bow 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 bow, well-earned leather, hot metal and oil, the scented country air. Sunlight on chrome, the purer the landscape, every nowhere. Bum 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 bum. And then you get right into that solo. And then it goes right back into the riff. Bow 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 bow. Oh, it's so cool. I just love this song so much. I love the harmonics at the beginning and the end. And I love the bass riff where it goes wow. Oh, that's so cool every time they hits that. And then YYZ, oh my goodness, that's such a cool instrumental. One of the most effective uses of a tritone I've heard in music at the beginning. I love that that in Morse code it spells YYZ. I love that. I love the main riff, the like Alex and Geddy kind of playing at the same time. Neil's drumming is amazing. I love when they do this song in concerts, how they'll just like stop and let Neil just go ham for a little bit. I love the guitar solo. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. It sounds like Alex is about to summon the aliens to build the pyramid whenever he plays that solo. I love the breakdown section where Geddy Lee plays the synths and Alex is just kind of playing something atmospheric in the background, and then it goes right back into the bow bow bow, and I love the part that goes wow wow bow 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 down, and then Geddy is playing like that really cool bass underneath, and Neil is just going crazy on the drums. It's like, how can they all play so complicated at the same time and it sounds so good? It's just so cool. And then we got Limelight, which is my favorite song on the album. I love the riff. And then I like the lyrics. They're kind of personal to Neil about kind of being famous and the pressures that come with being famous. I love the guitar solo on this one. It's one of Alex's best guitar solos. And then you flip the record over. The Camera Eye, it was my least favorite when I first heard this, but it's not anymore because the song's amazing. Kind of giving a picture of life in the city, comparing New York and London. I love the guitar riff, the bow do 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 bow 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 down bow da do do do. And then I love the guitar solo on this one too. Boo doo doo doo. Oh, you know a guitar solo is good when you can sing every note of it. And then the Witch Hunt, I really like that one as well. Third part of the Fear trilogy. I like the atmospheric beginning with the bells and like the mob, like wah wah wah, she's a witch burner. And then the guitar, bow do 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 bow do 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 do. And it closes really well with Vital Signs, kind of them doing a police-sounding reggae thing. I know that's your favorite Rush song, and I can see why. It's so amazing. Man, I love this album. I love the line, in mental and environmental change. I like that kind of play on words. There's so many good lines in this song. Pause, rewind, repeat, one memory chip. Like, just so many great lines in this song. Such an atmospheric song. Honestly, like, if I was listening to this song in the 80s, I'd have thought this album was made by aliens or something, because that's kind of what it sounds like. But, man, one of the 10 best albums ever made, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to make this connection, how, like, Moving Pictures and Dark Side of the Moon are, like, they're each band's, most popular album. The third track is an instrumental, third track also airport related. I always loved the similarities with that, like YYZ and On the Run being like airport related on the third track of their most popular album.
We could have called the last 5 minutes of this video Sound Lab freaks out over moving pictures, or geeks out over moving pictures for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see me geek out over the Who Sellout,
yeah,
watch our review on the Who Sellout.
Anyway, that's my number one. Let's just kind of go over our list again, just kind of reading it off real fast in the regular order.
Yep.
My number one was Moving Pictures. Number two is Hemispheres. Number three, A Farewell to Kings. Number 4, 2112. Number 5, Signals. Number 6, Permanent Waves. Number 7, Power Windows. Number 8, Grace Under Pressure. Number 9, Caress of Steel. Number 10, Hold Your Fire. Number 11, Fly By Night. 12, Vapor Trails. 13, Roll the Bones. 14, Rush, self-titled. 15, Clockwork Angels. 16, Test for Echo. 17, Presto. 18, Snakes and Arrows. And number 19, Counterparts.
I don't think we had a single album that was the exact same number.
No.
Number 1 for me was Signals. Number 2 was Farewell to Kings. 3 was 2112. Number 4 was Moving Pictures. Number 5 was Caress of Steel. Number 6 was Hemispheres. Number 7 was Hold Your Fire. Number 8, I was going to joke and say was Moving Pictures, but it's Power Windows. Number 9, Permanent Waves. Number 10, Clockwork Angels. Number 11, Roll the Bones. Number 12, Fly By Night. Number 13, Test for Echoes. Number 14 is Grace Under Pressure. Number 15 is Rush, self-titled. Number 16 is Presto. 17, Vapor Trails. 18, Counterparts. And 19, Snakes and Arrows.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you to everybody who watched this video. It was very fun to get to rank the albums of Rush. Another time we'll get to do the top 10 songs of Rush, 1974 to 1982. I'm looking forward to that. I don't know when it's going to come out, but just thank you very much for helping to make this video really fun. We will see you guys in our next video, which may be connected to this. The next video we're going to do is either a full album review of Moving Pictures, or we're going to finally get the Led Zeppelin 3 full album review. So one of those will be our next video. I mean, I still got to get that Breakfast in America video edited, but so that's coming first. But then the one after that is going to be either Moving Pictures or Led Zeppelin 3. So thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time.